Hey everyone, Masonzero MTG here, and we're here with yet another Cube video. Modern Horizons 2 has a ton of amazing cards for Cube, and we'll be going over my top 10 in this video. As usual, this is just my opinion and I might be influenced by my own cube, but I try to consider cubing as a whole and think of cards that most cubes would like having. Anyways, I just want to get into this awesome list, so let's get into it. Damn. And I mean damn. This is one of those rare cards that is a strict upgrade to a long-standing cube card. Damn is Wrath of God with more flexibility. Literally for the same mana cost and at sorcery speed, this card can be Wrath of God word for word, no downside. Or you can just pay 2 black to destroy a creature. You don't need me to tell you how great a card this is. The hard part really is determining how to classify it in your cube. Is it a black card, a white card, an Orzhov card? There's already been a lot of debate around this. I don't think you should consider it as a multicolored card, and I am leaning towards considering it a mono-white card. Cards like Lingering Souls or Ancient Grudge I would consider to be only their main color, and not their flashback color. And despite how the costs are arranged on Damn, I think the overloaded version should be considered the primary mode, and the black single target cost as the optional secondary cost. Therefore, this should be a white card. Ragovan, Nimble Pilferer. I've been thinking lately about how I want to support red-white aggro, but a lot of red 1-drops just aren't very exciting in Cube. We have Goblin Guide, Monastery of Swiftspear, and Zurgo Bellstriker, but really not anything else. Ragavan, however, is insanely good. Right off the bat, you get a 1-mana 2-1, who has a dash cost of 2, making him very similar to Zurgo. When he deals combat damage, you make a treasure and can cast the top card of your opponent's library. This is such a great ability, and keeping that extra mana around in the early turns means you have all the mana you need to dump out other cards. Follow up Ragovan with Carry Zev Skyship Raider for extra flavor and an awesome aggro curve. The only thing I can say is that I hope the price goes down from the pre-order price. Oh my god. Ignoble Hierarch. There is not a lot to say about Ignoble Hierarch, as it's the exact same thing as Noble Hierarch, except it makes black and red mana instead of white and blue. If you want to run both, you certainly can replace a simpler mana dork such as Elvish Mystic or Avacyn's Pilgrim. Flexible mana creatures are always great, and this one is up there in terms of power level. Esper Sentinel. You like Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, right? Well, Esper Sentinel is perfect for that same style of deck. At just 1 mana, it's an artifact creature in white that will draw you cards when your opponent casts non-creature spells. Since it can come down so early, your opponent probably won't be able to pay the 1 mana tax, and you'll be drawing plenty of cards. I do like the fact that it's based on the power of Esper Sentinel. There aren't a ton of cases where its power would be more than 1, but it's nice that it does scale. Ultimately, this does something similar but different to Thalia, and it is one-sided, so you can still feel free to cast non-creature spells yourself. It's less restrictive on your own deck building, and it still taxes most spells. Since it only affects the first non-creature spell cast each turn, the tax doesn't apply universally. That's why I'm hesitant to say that this replaces Thalia, but I'm not really sure what it replaces. Either way, it's a very good card and an effect that white definitely needs. Persist. Persist is a card I'm pretty excited about, yet I'm not entirely sure where to put it in Cube, and it's one that I think a lot of people might not be super happy about. This is a reanimation spell with limited but significant downsides. It can't hit legendary creatures, sadly, but there are still plenty of great targets in Cube. The only other downside is that it gets -1/-1. Comparing this to other reanimation spells, it seems decent, but not quite amazing. Reanimate comes at a potentially high life cost, Exhume is symmetrical and may be worse for you if your opponent has something good in their graveyard, Unburial Rites comes at a much higher mana cost, and Animate Dead is susceptible to enchantment removal. So they all have their downsides, just like Persist does. I think if you do like Persist, then Animate Dead is probably the reanimation spell you should remove, as it's quite similar, but without the fact that it's a bit fragile. If you have other reanimation spells in your cube, the non-legendary clause of Persist should not be too much of a downside. Tireless Provisioner. Tireless Provisioner comes across as a riff on Tireless Tracker, but instead we should see it as a riff on Lotus Cobra. Lotus Cobra is a popular cube card that has a landfall ability that adds a mana of any color. Tireless Provisioner adds 1 mana to the cost of the creature, but with a lot of additional power and flexibility. You get the choice between a food token or a treasure token. You'll likely be making treasure tokens most of the time, but if you draw this late game and you're a little bit behind, those food tokens can help you stabilize in a pinch. Creating a treasure token, however, is far better than Lotus Cobra's ability to instantly add a mana. By creating a treasure token, you can stockpile that mana for later, as well as get potential artifact, token, and sacrifice synergies from other cards in your cube. These might be corner cases, but it does make it a lot more synergistic than Lotus Cobra. It's also an elf, which means it's even better in tribal cubes. Archon of Cruelty. Archon of Cruelty may be an 8-mana uncastable behemoth, but it has a lot of potential in medium-powered cubes. What's great about this card is that it does something immediately upon entering the battlefield, and it continues to do work once it attacks. Sacrificing, discarding, and losing life are all great abilities. Compare this to Sheoldred, a popular cube card. This card doesn't do anything when it enters the battlefield, so is susceptible to being immediately removed after all the setup of reanimating it. If the Archon gets removed, you still got a ton of value out of your mini Cruel Ultimatum. Removing Sheoldred from your cube for this actually works out pretty well if you also add in Persist, because you're replacing a legendary reanimation target with a non-legendary one. And when it comes down to it, 8 mana is not unreasonable for a control deck to get to, and this can certainly be hardcast to turn the tide of a game. Sword of Hearth and Home. The swords are pretty popular and powerful cards in cube, and I think Sword of Hearth and Home is going to be a great one. Protection from white means that the equipped creature will dodge removal like Path to Exile and Swords to Plowshares. Protection from green means it will avoid big green creatures that could normally kill it. The abilities are fantastic, as they let you flicker a creature for great enters the battlefield effects, and it lets you ramp. Pretty great for a white-based deck, but many decks will be happy about the ability to ramp or give a creature pseudo-vigilance. Grist the Hungertide. Grist the Hungertide is a black-green planeswalker that may deserve a spot in your cube. The thing about it that is most unique is that when it's not on the battlefield, it's a 1/1 insect creature. This means you can do creature things with it. For example, collect a company or Court of Calling. It also counts as a creature in your graveyard, meaning you can get it out with any cards like Reanimate or Unearth. And now we can actually get to the activated abilities. They come down as a 3-mana, 3-loyalty planeswalker, which is solid. The +1 is to create an insect and mill a card, and if the milled card is an insect, you repeat the process. You probably won't be repeating the process, but having a 1/1 is nice. The -2 is to sacrifice a creature to destroy a creature or planeswalker, so a very solid ability. And the -5 causes your opponent to lose life equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard, which goes nicely with the first ability, but isn't so crazy that you need to worry too hard about ticking up every turn. This is the least expensive black-green planeswalker, which makes it a good candidate for cube. I think its creature-based shenanigans make it better than the currently popular black-green planeswalker option, Vraska Golgari Queen. Her abilities are great, letting you sacrifice things, draw cards, destroy cheap permanents, and of course just win the game outright. I definitely think that Grist is overall better, so if you're looking for a black-green planeswalker for cube, then this might be the one. This last one is actually an entire cycle: Solitude, Subtlety, Grief, Fury, and Endurance. This cycle of elementals have a pretty important piece of text on them, and that is the ability to evoke them by just exiling a card from your hand. And these guys have some great enters the battlefield abilities. Even with that ability to get a useful spell for just the cost of a card, you may just want to hardcast them. The white, blue, and green ones have Flash just for fun, and all of them have great abilities. The white one has Lifelink and casts Swords to Plowshares. The blue one has Flying and puts a creature or planeswalker spell on the top or bottom of its owner's library. The black one has Menace and makes an opponent discard a non-land card. The red one has Double Strike and deals 4 damage among any number of creatures or planeswalkers. And the green one has Reach and puts all cards from a graveyard on the bottom of their library. All of these are great effects to have with the additional flexibility of either getting a great creature or getting a free useful effect at just the right moment. Fury would be the first to cut if you don't run them all, since there are a lot of great 5-drops in red already, and its effect isn't too insane compared to the rest. But no one would fault you for running every single one of these. Well everyone, those are my top 10 cards for Cube. This has been Masonzero MTG, and these videos are always a lot of fun to make. This list was probably one of the easiest ones to come together of any that I've made, because this set has so many good cards. In fact, my original list was probably 25 cards long. There's just so many good ones in this set that I think you could run regardless of the power level of your cube. I think peasant cubes and sort of medium power level cubes, or maybe low power, high synergy kind of style, I think got a lot of toys in this set. There's so many cards that are so much fun, and I would love to play in my cube. My main cube is just a little too powerful and traditional to support some of them, but man, so many themes I would want to explore, and it's great. They knocked it out of the park with this set, and I'm very excited to play with it. If you like this video, please hit the like button down below, leave a comment on what cards you're excited about, if I didn't mention them in this list, and yeah, I'll also be making a top 10 for Pauper Cube, so make sure you don't miss that, and I will see you all later. Thanks for watching.